Characteristics of function. These are features on functions. So for us to have a function, we need to have characteristics or how the function behaves. So all functions have what we call the input, the domain. The domain is known as the set of input values, or in short we can write it as a set of x value. So if you want to sketch or you are talking about a function, we must have the inputs. So when defining a function fully, the domain must be stated. We need to know the values of x which are involved in a particular function. Range, the corresponding output. We have input here, these are corresponding output values. These are the values of y. So when we put x into our row, remember a function is a row that allows you to map elements in the first set. So if you are having this particular row that allows you to map set A to set B, and this rule has its own characteristics. These are the ones that we are discussing now, the range. So here we say we are having x and that is y. So this one becomes our domain and this one becomes our range or our output. We put it in a row. We have what we call asymptote. It's a point where the graph of a function is not defined. We indicate an asymptote by drawing a broken line. We indicate it on a graph with a broken line. There is what we call y asymptote. There is what we call the x asymptote. It's an x value where the graph is not defined. Y asymptote is a y value where the graph of a function is not defined. So in such cases, it means the curve of a function is not continuous. That's why sometimes we end up having hyperbolic functions. Trigonometric functions, we have tan graph, where we have asymptote at x is equals to 90 degrees and x is equals to 270 degrees. Then we come to another feature, which is a turning point. A turning point is where the graph turns. At a turning point, the gradient changes. It changes as you approach the turning point. We see here, if you draw a line here, this line has positive gradient. So at a turning point, our gradient is 0. So it changes from positive to 0, then negative. That particular point where the gradient is 0 is the maximum turning point. And then we have here the minimum turning point. The minimum turning point, our graph, if we draw a line here, is negative gradient 0 and then positive gradient. So at a minimum turning point, we move from negative 0, then positive gradient. So this one is a sketch of a parabola. The value of A here is positive, the value of A here is negative. Then we talk about symmetry. Symmetry is another feature. It appears on some functions and not on all. It's a line or a point where you can divide your function or the graph of a function equally. For a parabola, we have our x is equals to minus b over 2a. That's our line of symmetry. Then, or the x value at the turning point of a parabola, that's our line of symmetry. Period, we are now talking about trigonometric functions. A period of tan is 180 degrees. So if we are having a tan x is equals to what? 180 degrees. Then for sine and cos is 360 degrees. We come here, we are talking about amplitude, the maximum deviation. So our amplitude, we are having a function that goes like that. So our amplitude is that distance. This is the amplitude. The amplitude. So maximum deviation from the x-axis. For sine and cos, our amplitude is 1. Tan graph does not have amplitude. Now, there is this interesting thing. Normally they ask you, for which values of x is your graph increasing or your graph is decreasing? An increasing function, if you draw a line along the function, that line must have a positive gradient. That means that function is increasing. For a decreasing function, it means if you draw a line alongside or almost on a curve, the line has negative gradient, it means that function is decreasing. So when we're talking about different functions, we talk about different characteristics. One function has a turning point, the other one doesn't have. All functions have the input and output. But for other features, these functions, they vary. Others have asymptotes, others they do not have. Others have amplitude, others they don't have. Others have line of symmetry, others they don't have. Thank you.